I once subscribed to the heresy of secession. I was even one of the ideologues in my younger days. I believed that was the solution to Nigerian problems. But I have evolved. Human beings should be able to embrace knowledge, and then if you have superior logic, drop what you used to believe was right because you have been presented with better evidence. When I sat down to reflect deeply on the subject of secession in Nigeria, what I found very quickly is that secession is actually a position informed by assumed weakness. At the birth of Nigeria, and I'm not talking 1960, going as far back as 1947, and I have historical evidence of this, an account written by Sir Sherwood Smith. He was the last governor of northern Nigeria. He wrote a book, he titled it But Always as Friends. Now, Sherwood Smith he gave an account of what led to the 1951 House of Representatives. He spoke of how the northern part of Nigeria, and I use the word northern part, I'm using it as a borrowed term because I don't believe in that myth. They were assured as far back as 1947 is written, and I'm using materials from that book in my upcoming book. What they did was they assured them that, look, don't worry, in the Nigerian Federation that will be created, you will get half of the seats in the parliament. Now, at that point, the preoccupation of the Yorubas and the Igbo, because there were always these three contending forces, the Fulani, the Yoruba, the Igbo, they believed that as long as there was a federal system, they would be able to survive anything that might be done in relation to the structure, as long as they could govern their own side. So the focus of the southern people in the immediate aftermath of the inequalities that began to emerge after the 1951 inauguration of that parliament was always, okay, what's come to us will stand in our region. So the regions became stronger and stronger and became more and more of tribal enclaves. And then you had the minorities raising their fears about the domination of the big three. Now, when I say big three, remember there was a mythical tribe that was created in the cauldron of Nigeria's birth, and that mythical tribe is called the Hausa Fulani. There is no tribe known as the Hausa Fulani, but in order to hide a particular agenda, that tribe had to be created as a myth. It was a cover. Now, by the time the Nigerian Federation began to come apart at the seam, in the aftermath of the coup, what happened was that the Igbos, in seeking the protection of their rights, what I've done is I've summarized a lot, but I know as a fact that I'm speaking with a lot of intelligent people. I'm not flattering you. I know Dr. Abati, who has the question, is informed. Now, in the cauldron of that 1966 coup, what happened was that the Igbos reacting, and I say reacting deliberately, there is a difference between reactions and responses. The Igbos reacting declared, after the failure of Eburi, decided to go alone. The Yorubas ambivalent. But there was a third force that everybody has always ignored in Nigeria, and that third force is the one that did not seek to leave, but sought to dominate and control what was given to them after the July 1966 coup. Now, that force enjoys it when the Igbos begin to demand Biafra, when the Yorubas begin to demand Oodua Republic, because it takes attention away from what everybody could agree on. What everybody can agree on, and I say this without equivocation, over 90% of Nigerians across the length and breadth of Nigeria would agree to a restructuring. But when you begin to speak in terms of secession, what happens immediately is that you play into the hand of those whose intention is to dominate the rest. Because the minute you begin to speak secession, you raise the alarm of the minorities who know that if Nigeria is broken along the lines that all the secessionists have been demanding, their interests are further jeopardized. Because if in 1950s they were demanding that the Willings Commission should create guarantees for the interest of the minority, is it now, when even within Yoruba land you have marginalization and an Ibadan man cannot, and a man that is not Ibadan is struggling to be governor in Oyo State, and Okeogun does not have equality in Oyo State? Is it now that in Lagos State you are having struggles between the company? In Lagos State you are having people telling other people where they're coming from. You are having people being told that they are not indigenous enough. You are having, even within Lagos. So you have a situation where Awolowo was the one that first said this. He said, if you continue to clamor for the creation of state until Ikenne becomes a state, the agitation will not end. The creation of state was always meant to dilute the centrality of Nigeria's focus on federalism. If you keep breaking it down, the more you who is breaking it down in the first place? Where else in the world have you seen the federal government creating federating units? Dr. Abati, you are a lawyer. I know you studied you've studied constitutional history. Where else in the world, in the entire wide world, where they claim they have a federal system, does the federal government create states? So secession is a distraction. A distraction because it takes attention away from what is winnable. What is winnable is an easy win. Easy win when you begin to demand that Nigeria be. What is the argument against restructuring? What is the argument? There is no argument against restructuring. That is why President Buhari, General Buhari, will be talking about unpatriotism. What is unpatriotism? Who is more unpatriotic than the person who will take money to build a rail line to Maradi when you have children, over 14 million of them walking on the street, and then is building a rail line, 1.9 billion or something like that to Maradi. They are spending 36 billion or thereabout to renovate the National Assembly. Who is more unpatriotic? Patriotism should not be equalized with slavish support for stupid leaders whose only interest is to enslave the people. They are enslaving us. So to now be demanding, how can you ask me to be patriotic when you are busy decimating the future of my children whilst I'm still alive? So let's be clear. Nigerians asking for secession have genuine grievances that has battered their demands. But I cannot support it because I know that it is a distraction and it merely aids our oppressors and enslavers in obfuscating the real issues. The real issues are clear. It's about equality. No Nigerian, unless you are mad, you can't stand in front of me and tell me that I don't have a right to demand equality before the law. You cannot tell me that I don't have a right to demand to be treated the same as every other Nigerian wherever they might come from in Nigeria. That is not an unreasonable demand to make. When we now leave those demands and somebody, in fact, I even feel insulted sometimes. The people who are declaring the republic that I'm supposed to be a citizen of, some of them can't even articulate the grievances that has pushed them into declare. Okay, it's not their fault. Somebody was busy declaring something similar yesterday. Today is a millionaire many times over. Nigeria rewards madness, and that is why madness has become endemic. It rewards madness. If you think about it. We are sat down here and there are real life issues plaguing Nigeria. Real life issues that should interest anybody that still retains a modicum of consciousness. People travel outside Nigeria. They're coming into the airport, and the minute they come through, they remove their brain. They check it into their luggage. Because they know that the retention of their brain will only lead to their untimely death, exploitation, in the hands either of the state or one of its agents. And then you tell me that the answer to that is secession. By the time you are done breaking up Yoruba land, okay, the Fulani ruler of Lagos State in the last 21 years, are we deporting him? The ones who have been busy ruling in Abia State, are they going to be deported to Zamfara or Katsina? These secessionist arguments, anyone with half a brain should stop it. Is actually unedifying, because what we are I am a firm believer in Pan-Africanism. I am of the opinion that the only way the black man is ever going to come out of the perpetual servitude into which he has been locked will be for us to find common cause as a race. When I now hear someone, he lives in Lagos and is looking at all the solutions he believes would solve our problem in Nigeria, and he says, oh, we must break up. Okay, which foreign power am I paying tolls to in Lagos? There is no house in Lagos today that hasn't paid. If you've built a house in Lagos in the last 10 years, you paid at least cumulatively, you couldn't have paid less than 5 million naira to Lagos State in one form of fee or the other. Cumulatively, between governor's consent, approval, one thing or the other. How does that show on the street of Lagos? How does declaring no? In fact, the other day, one Lagos indigene was telling me Gedegbe Lekowa, and I was laughing to myself. Gedegbe Lekowa, the solution to Lagos problem is secession of Lagos within the scope of the breakup that they are all envisaging. When you are done now breaking that Lagos into it will now be the Republic of Bodilon. What happens at that point? We should stop all these distractions.